10 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve minutes from previous meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the agenda to consider our quarterly transfers.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to approve quarterly transfers.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to amend the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion
I'll make
carries.
the motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the amended agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
I gave you, each of you, 3 printouts from 3 different, I gave you a printout from 3 different precincts. And that's what we'll use to canvass from. Up in the, right up there, it lists the precinct
Yeah.
number. So,
Pretty fun.
yeah, it is. So whoever has precinct number 1, we can start with them. And even if the candidate has no votes, give that name and a 0, so I stay on track as I'm recording them, please.
I've got one.
Okay.
You don't need the party distribution.
It'll start with Democrats and just go down through the name of the office and then
Okay.
the name of the candidate.
U.S. Senator Bruce Braley, 12. U.S. Representative 4th District Jim Mowery, 11. Jack Hatch, Governor, 11. Secretary of State Brad Anderson, 12. Auditor of State Jonathan Niederbach, 11. Treasurer Mike Fitzgerald, 12. Secretary of Agriculture Sherry Taha, 11. Attorney General Tom Miller, 12. State Representative, there was no candidates, 1 write-in vote. County Treasurer, no candidates, 1 write-in.
Okay. When you get to the Attorney General from the Democrats, you can quit because we have no candidates for any of those offices. So then you can go to the Republicans.
U.S. Senator Sam Clovis, 24. Joni Ernst, 34. Mark Jacobs, 22. Scott Shaven, 1. Matt Whitaker, 4. U.S. Representative Steve King, 82. Governor Terry Branstad, 70. Tom Hoefling, 16. Secretary of State Paul Pate, 71. Auditor of State Mary Weissman, 66. No candidate for Treasurer. Secretary of Agriculture Bill Northeast, 79. Attorney General, no candidate. State Rep Gary Worthen, 76. County Treasurer Vicki Payton, 30. Lisa Phillips, 56. And 1 write-in. County Recorder Nancy Allen, 71, and 1 write-in. County Attorney Ben Smith, 79.
I've got precinct 2.
Okay.
U.S. Senator Bruce Braley, 0. Jim Mauer, 0. Governor Jack Hatch, 0. Secretary of State Brad Anderson. Auditor,
0 for Anderson.
yes. Jonathan Niederbach, 0. Treasurer of State Fitzgerald, 0. Secretary of Agriculture, Sherry Taha, 0. Attorney General, Tom Miller, 0.
That should be it.
Okay, U.S. Senator. Sam Clovis, 5. Joni Ernst, 23. Mark Jacobs, 4. Scott Shaven, 2. Matt Whitaker, 1. U.S. Representative Steve King, 34. Governor Terry Branstad, 34. Tom Hoefling, 4. Secretary of State Paul Pate, 33. Auditor of State Mary Mosman, 34. Treasurer of State, 1 write-in. Secretary of Agriculture Bill Northey, 35. Attorney General, 1 write-in. State Representative Gary Worthen, 35. County Supervisor District 2, Rick Heck, 36.
Just a second.
County
How many
Treasurer,
would you have for Rick?
36. County Treasurer Vicki Payton, 27. Lisa Phillips, 11. County Recorder Nancy Allen, 36. County Attorney Ben Smith, 35.
Have precinct 3. U.S. Senator Bruce Braley, 7. U.S. Representative Jim Mauer, 7. Governor Jack Hatch, 6. Secretary of State Brad Anderson, 6. Auditor of State Jonathan Niederbach, 5. Treasurer of State Michael Fitzgerald, 7. Secretary of Ag Sherry Taha, 7. Attorney General Tom Miller, 7. In the county treasurer race, there are 2 write-ins.
Okay.
And then down to U.S. Senator Sam Clovis, 22. Joni Ernst, 17. Mark Jacobs, 16. Scott Shaven, 2. Matt Whitaker, 3. U.S. Rep. Steve King, 55. Governor Branstad, 51. Hoefling, 11. Secretary of State Paul Pate, 42. Auditor of State Mary Mosman, 45. Treasurer of State, 3 write-ins. Bill Northey, 52. Attorney General, there are 5 write-ins. State Rep Gary Worthen, 51. County Treasurer Vicki Payton, 26. Lisa Phillips, 36. 1 write-in. County Recorder Nancy Allen, 49. County Attorney Ben Smith, 54.
I got precinct 4. Bruce Braley, 29. Jim Mauer, 25. Jack Hatch, 28. Secretary of State Brett Anderson, 29. State Auditor Jonathan Niederbacher, 26. Treasurer of State Michael Fitzgerald, 30. Secretary of Ag Sherry Taha, 25. Attorney General Tom Miller, 30. State Rep, 3 write-ins. County Supervisor District 2, Democratic Party, 2 write-ins. County Treasurer, 12 write-ins. County Recorder, 2 write-ins. County Attorney, 2 write-ins. U.S. Senator Sam Clovis, 47. Joni Ernst, 113. Mark Jacobs, 68. Scott Shaven, 8. Matt Whitaker, 25. U.S. Representative Steve King, 214, 2 write-ins. Governor Terry Branstad, 195. Tom Hoefling, 78, 1 write-in. Secretary of State Paul Pate, 186, 1 write-in. Auditor of State Mary Mosman, 182, 2 write-ins. Treasurer of State, 6 write-ins. Secretary of Ag Bill Northey, 212, 1 write-in. Attorney General, 8 write-ins. State Rep Gary Wortham, 208. County Supervisor District 2, Rick Hecht, 243. County Treasurer Vicki Payton, 180. Lisa Phillips, 102. 1 write-in. County Recorder Nancy Owen, 257. 1 write-in. County Attorney, 233. 4 write-ins.
Got District 5. Bruce Braley, 5. Jim Mauer, 4. Jack Hatch, 5. Brad Anderson, 4. Jonathan Niederbacher, 4. Mike Fitzgerald, 4. Sherry Taha, 4. Tom Miller, 4. And 0 for that. County Supervisor District 2, 1 write-in. County Treasurer, 3 write-ins. County Recorder, 1 write-in. County Attorney, 1 write-in. U.S. Senator Clovis, 14. Ernst, 31. Jacobs, 8. Scott Shaven, 1. And Matt Whitaker, 4. U.S. Representative Steve King, 45. 1 write-in. Governor Branstad, 47. Hoffling, 13. Secretary of State Kate, 38. Auditor of State Mary Moisman, 37. 0 candidate. Secretary of Agriculture, Northy, 46. Attorney General, 1 write-in vote. U.S. Representative, Worthen, 40. Rec Cap, 51, and 1 write-in. County Treasurer, Peyton, 28. Phillips, 27.
Excuse me. Peyton was what?
Peyton, 28, and Phillips, 27. And County Recorder, Nancy Allen, 50. County Attorney, Ben Smith, 47, and 1 write-in. I've got 6, Oldable, Braley, 6. Maury, 6. Hatch, 5. Anderson, 5. Niederbach, 6. Fitzgerald, 6. Taha, 5. Miller, 6. 0 on the right. County Treasurer, 0, 0, 0. U.S. Senator, Sam Clovis, 26. Ernst, 55. Jacobs, 17. Shaven, 4. Matt Whitaker, 3. U.S. Representative Steve King, 103. Terry Branstad, 93. Tom Hoefling, 12. Secretary of State Pate, 74. Moisman, 76. 1 write-in for Treasurer of State. And Bill Northy, Secretary of Ag, 90. No candidates. 3 write-ins for Attorney General. State Representative Wortham, 83. County Treasurer Vicki Payton, 63. Lisa Phillips, 43. County Recorder Nancy Allen, 87. County Attorney Ben Smith, 89.
Got 267, Lakeview. Bruce Braley, 17. Jim Mauer, 15. Jack Hatch, 15, with 1 write-in. Secretary of State Brad Anderson, 16. Auditor of State Jonathan Niederbach, 16. Treasurer of State Michael Fitzgerald, 16. Secretary of Ag Sherry Taha, 14. Attorney General Tom Miller, 16. State Rep District 3 write-ins. County Supervisor District 3, 1 write-in. County Treasurer, 2 write-ins. County Recorder, 1 write-in. County Attorney, 1 write-in. U.S. Senators, Sam Clovis, 25. Joni Ernst, 87. Mark Jacobs, 32. Scott Shaven, 6. Matt Whitaker, 11. U.S. Rep Steve King, 156. Governor Branstad, 130. Hoefling, 41. 1 write-in. Secretary of State Paul Pate, 125. Auditor of State Mary Mosman, 129. Treasurer of State, 7 write-in. Secretary of Ag Bill Northy, 138, and 1 write-in. Attorney General, no candidate, 4 write-in. State Rep 11, Gary Worthen, 130. County Supervisor Dean Stock, 149, and 1 write-in.
Just a minute, I'm good.
County Treasurer Vicky Payton.
Tell me that stock again.
Stock 149, 1 write-in.
Okay.
County Treasurer Vicky Payton, 115, Lisa Phillips, 56. County Recorder Nancy Allen, 152, and County Attorney Ben Smith, 150.
Precinct 8, Auburn. U.S. Senator Bruce Braley, 7. U.S. Representative Jim Mauer, 7. Governor Jack Hatch, 6. Secretary of State Brett Anderson, 7. Auditor of State Jonathan Niederbacher, 5. Treasurer of State Michael Fitzgerald, 7. Secretary of Ag Sherry Taha, 6. Tom Miller, 7. U.S. Senator Sam Clovis, 18. Joni Ernst, 28. Mark Jacobs, 4. Scott Shaven, 0. Matt Whitaker, 2. U.S. Rep Steve King,
State Jonathan Niederbach, 5. Treasurer of State Michael Fitzgerald, 5. Secretary of State Sherry Taha, 4. Attorney General Tom Miller, 5. And all the rest are no votes until you get to the U.S. Senator.
Okay.
Sam Clovis, 33. Joni Ernst, 40. Mark Jacobs, 31. Scott Shaven, 2. Matt Whitaker, 2. U.S. Rep District 4, Steve King, 100. Governor Branstad, 76. Tom Hoefling, 34. Secretary of State Paul Pate, 79. Auditor of State Mary Mosman, 80. Treasurer of State, 1 write-in. Secretary of Ag Bill Northey, 91. Attorney General, 1 write-in. Representative District 11 Gary Worthen, 83. County Supervisor District 3 Dean Stock, 101. County Treasurer Vicky Payton, 67. Lisa Phillips, 44. County Recorder Nancy Allen, 96. County Attorney Ben Smith, 100.
On the inside cover of both of these books, there's a signature line for each and every one. And before you leave today, stop, check with Joe. There's some abstracts that you'll need to sign as well from the election results.
forward.
I need to get Calhoun County on the phone for this one. Yep, that is the correct number there, Renell.
Brunel, if you wanna just leave that receiver on the hanger and push line one. There you go.
Auditor's office, this is Karen.
This is Supervisor Drake from Sac County.
Okay, I'll get you joined here, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
You don't wanna talk to us today.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Mr. Ruby.
Judy.
Judy's always busy.
Try adjourn.
You're not gonna answer.
I got tired of waiting for you.
You really ticked her off now, didn't you?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, this is Renell Drake from Sac County.
Yes. Did you not get into the conference room?
No.
Okay, just a moment. Okay, here you go.
Thank you.
Mhm.
She's not gonna talk to you.
Technology's
Wonderful thing. There's a phone store in Rockville City.
Maybe they're using the old phones like we might have to.
Yeah, maybe we should give them our own. Get 'em up to date.
Everybody can't hook up to everybody.
Well, I thought this was gonna work. I might have to drive over to Rockville City before this is all said and done.
We're not going with you.
Well, I don't blame you. I'll go by myself.
That's just bizarre.
You want me to Skype with him for you?
They might not answer.
Auditor's office, this is Mary.
Yeah, this is Renell Drake again.
Okay, we're gonna try it again. Okay, I'm gonna transfer them now.
All right.
They had some loose cords in there.
Okay.
Just a moment. Got everybody crawling around on the floor.
That's a vision that'll stay with you all day. Yeah.
We got plugged in.
This is Renell from Sac County.
This is Calhoun County.
Okay?
Got all of the supervisors present, myself, Judy Howery, and Wayne Dowling as drainage clerk.
We have Brian from INS and all three supervisors and Jim Dowling and Renee.
Okay, so I need to start with the chair and secretary. Motion.
I'll make a motion that Renell Drake serve as the chairman for the joint district meeting today.
Who's your chair?
I move that Renell Drake would serve as chair, Rick Hecht,
And
Oh,
Jim is
okay.
secretary.
and Jim as secretary.
Oh, okay.
I'll second that, Horrigan.
Motion's been made and seconded to have Renell Drake as chairman and Jim Dowling as secretary. All in favor say aye.
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 All ayes, motion carries.
Okay, everyone, this is Brian Bloom with INS Group. We are here today for the filing of the Commissioner's Report on Reclassification for Joint Drainage District 2, SAC 51 Calhoun. Can you hear me okay in Calhoun?
Yeah, very good. Yep.
Okay, great. Just real briefly, I want to first touch on some history of the district. Then I'll move into a review of the schedules that were created as a part of this reclassification for the district. We'll go over the factor sheets that the commissioners used in order to determine the classifications and assessments for the parcels. And then I'll finish up with a brief rundown of the 100% parcel for the district. So first, let me hit on some brief history here. The district was created and established in 1906. At that time, it was a main tile and 5 laterals that were constructed with a auxiliary surface channel. At least that's what they termed it at that time in the district history, was a auxiliary surface channel. Talking with some of the landowners out there, it was known as the ditch over the top of the main tile. This ditch was in section 14 and 15 of Cedar Township, Sac County. The next major work that was conducted was in 1994. It was an improvement project in which the lower 9,300 linear feet of main tile was removed and a open ditch was constructed. That is what we know now as the main open ditch. And at the completion of that construction in 1996, the district was reclassified at that time with 8 different assessment schedules. That included a main open ditch, a main tile, a branch A lower, branch A upper, branch B, branch C, branch D, and branch E. It was in 2012 that Highway 20 was constructed and subdivided some of the parcels because of the purchase of right-of-way going through this watershed. And also in 2013, the district completed improvements to the main tile system, and those improvements provided relief to branches C, D, and E of the tile system. So it was on December 4th of 2012 that the joint board ordered reclassification of the district based upon these material changes of Highway 20, subdividing the parcels, and the benefits received by the improvement to the main tile system. It should also be noted that Drainage District 86 of Sac County is contained completely within Branch A of the tile system of Joint Drainage District 2 and 51. It was originally constructed in the late 1940s And when it was constructed, it intercepted branch A of 2 and 51 at station 52 plus 26 on branch A. That's at the very top end of the open ditch. DD 86 Sac County was also improved in 2013. That improvement project deepened the open ditch of 86, which allowed for a second location of intercept of branch A of 2 and 51. This time the intercept was at station 18 plus 20 on branch A. This created 3 separate segments for branch A. So now we have created 3 separate schedules, a lower, middle, and upper to that branch. If you take a look at the commissioner's report, you'll have a reclassification plat, which it follows the written portion of the report. It's a 11 by 17 sheet. And you'll see there the branch A upper, branch A middle, and branch A lower in sections 13 and 14 of Cedar Township, just north of Linton, Iowa. You can also see on this map the different laterals that make up the tile system of this district. With that, I'll move on into the reclassification. What we did for reclassification was for the main tile, the branch A system, which now is lower, middle, and upper. Branch B system, branch C, branch D, and branch E. We did not reclassify the main open ditch at this time. If the main open ditch conducts major repairs in the future, it would be at that time that we would look at reclassification of the main open ditch. Factors used in order to review the assessments. Now I'm going to go to the factor sheets. You'll see the first sheet is a spreadsheet in which we do all of our calculations. The second sheet is a soils, flow path, and catchment. It's a very busy sheet that shows a bunch of dots, lines, and blue and black lines. It's also on a soils map, so this map gets very busy. What the dots represent are areas where flow accumulates. The computer will take a look at each individual area on a 2-acre basis and then subdivide that in order to establish flow paths. This is what we use in order to calculate usage of the facility, along with the proximity, how close that facility was brought to your parcel. And also the soils map is used in order to determine the wetness of your parcel, which is sheet 3 of the factor sheet set. So the first factor we use is the benefited acres. How much of your given tract, how much of your given parcel is included inside of the watershed. The second factor is wetness. What kind of soils do you have on your land? Okoboji soil, being a wet and poorly drained soil, receives a 100. A Nicolette is top of ridge soil, so you receive a 30 for that on wetness. And then soils in between that get a range of numbers. We weight that against the entire parcel. Each area of soil is considered, and then you establish your wetness number, which is shown on the map labeled soil and wetness factor, lower right-hand corner of the sheet. You'll notice that our numbers range from an 82 to, just real quickly, I'm seeing some 20s out on the boundary, north portion of the boundary in section 7. Moving on to the next factor.
Brian.
Sure, Rick.
I see an 85,
In 85?
and
Yeah,
that's kind of, if I'm, got my ground thoughts right, that's about where the reservoir for the road is. Do you see that?
we got an 85 in there.
Just right at, it's right here.
Here should be the two.
Where
So
that-
65, Rick.
No.
No,
right there.
65.9.
West side of the road.
West side of the road. Okay, what you're seeing there is it's a thin parcel that is south of the highway.
South of the new highway?
Yep, south of the new highway, there are pieces in there that are very thin, less than an acre parcels that were established by the subdivide of the parcel when Highway 20 came through. So what you're seeing there is an 85 is, I'm gonna guess that real small parcel has a high area of okoboji and a very small area of another soil that would bring it down off of 100% wetness. But because it's such a small parcel, that's why it's showing up as 85.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If there are no other questions on wetness, I will move forward to proximity. Hearing no other questions, proximity to outlet. How this is calculated is your flow paths are determined by the computer using LiDAR elevation numbers and information from the state. That path, that flow path, you take your overall path from your point of concentration on your parcel to the outlet of the district facility. And that is the number that goes on the bottom of your factor, of your equation. What it's dividing into is where does your concentrated flow enter the facility. So you've got a length from the outlet to where your water enters the facility. That length is divided by the length from the outlet to your given parcel. So as you move away from the facility, your number will drop. And as you move from the outlet of the facility to the top end of the facility, your number will increase. So your proximity number will be close to 1 at the very top end of the facility. You can see this in the southwest of the northeast section 8, where we have a boundary parcel at 0.98. That is as close to 1 as you're going to get on this facility. What's going on there is the water actually enters in slightly downstream of the very top end of the facility. That's the reason why that is not a 1. So you can see by the color scheme on the proximity factor map, again, that title is in your lower right-hand corner of the sheet. Yellow representing a low number, and then a dark blue representing a number close to 1. You can see that you have a nice step up in those numbers, so our separation or our proximity numbers are well distributed within the watershed. I'll move forward to the next factor, which is use, percentage usage of the facility. Now all we're looking at is where does your water enter the facility in comparison to the overall length of the facility. So you'll see in, once again, section 8, those parcels are 100% usage. all of their water enters the top end of the facility. And then the rest of that is a step down to those parcels at the very bottom end where the tile outlets to the open ditch in, well, it would be the northeast of section 14, Cedar Township. Again, the color scheme shows a good distribution of the usage factor. Next factor we're going to review is the runoff factor. Runoff factor is basically separated by what is the land of the parcel. What is the overall land of the parcel? You'll notice that row crop ground receives a 1, for it is going to have a less amount of runoff than, say for instance, the highway. The Highway 20 received a 1.6 runoff factor. And then parcels such as residence or acreages received a 1.3 for their area in terms of impervious area to pervious area is greater. You have a greater impervious area on a small acreage than what you would on a row crop ground. Therefore, they receive a 1.3 for a runoff factor. Take note that in the northeast of the southeast, section 12, and the northwest of the southeast, section 12, we have 2 parcels up there that received a runoff factor of 1.15. What's going on there is when the state purchased right-of-way for Highway 20, they purchased the entire 40-acre tract, and they used that area as a borrow site. You can see the ponded area on the aerial photo of the runoff factor sheet. The highway received a 1.6. The rest of the parcel received a 1, and the weighted average of those 2 areas with those runoff factors applied was a 1.15. And we will continue to carry that number as that until such time that they split the highway off from the area in which is not used as part of the highway going through that 40-acre tract.
So will that, we're hoping that at some point that'll become private property again. Is that when you change it?
We will change it after such time that they've put it into private and the district does some major work. Then we'll go
But
in
it
there
won't
and
change until the district does major work.
unless the joint board comes together and says, please split this parcel.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And the joint board does have the discretion to do so at any time. You can direct an engineer in order to redistribute the benefit to just those parcels that are in question there. So you don't redistribute or you don't reclassify the whole district to do so. You would just be looking at those 2 40-acre parcels. Their share would remain the same on the schedule. It's just that you would split their share between what would become the highway and what would remain as the borrow pit / recreation area, whatever would be decided to happen to
This
that pit.
is all new ground for us. So
Yep.
That's
Yep.
why I was asking.
But it shouldn't be an issue until we were to do a levy on the district, and it's not gonna,
Correct,
okay,
correct,
After the change of ownership.
right.
correct. And now I need to get into 2 additional factors that were used. These factors are not typically used in a reclassification process, but we had a couple of things that were unique to this watershed that we needed to give some benefit to these landowners for. The first one I would like to discuss is the area of borrow that the highway has out there. What you'll see on the adjustment factors map, again, your title is on the lower right-hand corner. You'll see a number of parcels up there that are colored. Again, I'm looking at the northeast of the southeast, northwest of the southeast, section 12, where that borrow pit resides. There's a 10.25 acre area in those two parcels that drain directly to the borrow pit itself. Those acres are going to receive a 75% reduction as part of a adjustment factor because their surface water drains to the pit. It does not drain to the facility. They will pay 25% because those lands still receive a subsurface drainage benefit because of the existence of the facility. And also the facility runs right along their eastern boundary. They could at some time hook up to the facility to improve that subsurface drainage. So the commissioners and I felt it appropriate to give a 25% usage or a 25% benefit to these two 40-acre tracts. Well, they're slightly less than 40-acre tracts, but to these parcels because they have the capability of hooking into the tile system if they choose. The actual area of ponding, the pond itself is a 7-acre piece of ground that is used as a deep pit. They borrowed materials out of there, they left it as a deep pit. This pit will never overflow, and there's no need for subsurface drainage for this pond. Therefore, we applied a 100% reduction, zero benefit to those 7 acres because there will never be a need for that facility for those 7 acres of pit itself. Are there any questions about that adjustment factor? Okay, the other factors that you see there as an adjustment, we have some of those parcels receiving a 50% reduction to the area in which surface drains directly to a surface pipe at the top end of the open ditch facility. These acres still receive subsurface benefit to the tile system. However, they also receive benefit because of surface drainage by a surface pipe. So they received a 50% reduction because of that surface drainage going directly to the ditch. If there are no questions, I'll move forward and we'll take a look at the classification, the percent classification. Once again, what's important to look at here is the color scheme. You'll notice that we start at the lower end or the outlet of the tile facility with a yellow color and we progress to a dark blue. The dark blue representing the 100% parcel in section 7, which is owned by Alan Albright. And you'll notice that the color scheme is a pretty nicely distributed color scheme across the board. So we've got a good distribution. I'm going to take you to the very last sheet of the factor sheets, which is the percent classification per acre. This is the sheet that really shows how well the area has been distributed across the parcels for the benefit derived. you'll notice that we've got at the lower end a 0.03% classification per acre. The 100% parcel receives a 2.78% per acre. And you'll notice that through section 7, some of the highway parcels are receiving a 5.02, 5.08, 4.78. What's going on there is they have less acres compared to their percent classification. Therefore, that number is driven higher. But overall, the distribution for the row crop ground is well distributed across this watershed. Looking at the 100% parcel, the tract of ground that will be paying the most when it comes time for payment of the improvement project, again, that parcel is owned by Alan Albright, who was one of the landowners that was for a tile project out there in this district. The 100% parcel is 37.19 acres of benefited ground in the northeast quarter, part of the south quarter of Section 7 Garfield Township. The levy, whatever levy is placed on this district, that given parcel, let's just say that you put I calculated it out that I'm figuring the total project cost plus interest will equal $406,600. The total assessment schedule will show $415,600. The difference between those two are the original construction dollars. So a 98% levy would be needed in order to pay for all outstanding, plus anything that's gonna come up through the reclassification hearing. So I've already calculated in some extra on top of the actual cost of the project itself. A 98% levy would require the 100% parcel to pay $25,816.34. That calculates out to $694.17 an acre. Again, $694.17 an acre. I would like to refer this back to our engineering report and the estimate that was provided at that time when landowners had the opportunity for remonstrance, which is a process in which they can vote to terminate a project. At that time, we were estimating an average of $476.31 an acre. And we told those landowners at that time that the highest benefited parcel could figure on a 2.5 times that number for a cost per acre. That would have calculated out to $1,190.78 an acre. Now you can see that that number is considerably higher than where we came in. And our actual number is 1.46 times what we estimated as an average at the time of the engineer's report. Again, it's 1.46 times the estimated average for the 100% parcel. So, one, we got a very good contractor out there doing the work. Two, we had a very good bid. They came in underneath our engineer's estimate. And our distribution across the watershed is such that the 100% parcel is 1.46 times what we had estimated as the average at the time of the report. So, landowners out there should be pleased with the project for one, and with the costs, because everything that would have been communicated to them at the beginning would have been higher than where we're gonna end up. Another large reason for the cost savings was we also estimated some wetland mitigation would be required. And in working with the NRCS, we were able to get everything prior converted as its classification through the NRCS, so wetland mitigation was not required. And that also was a large factor in why our costs are lower than what we had estimated. At this time, I'd like to answer any questions that you have.
We need a big rain to test it.
Well, I tell you what, I have talked with Dennis Degner, one of the landowners out there, after a 3-inch rain was received. And he was a little concerned about the old system because the old outlet wasn't running much water, but the new system was running a lot of water. And he wanted to make sure that this was the way the system was designed to run, which it is. There are at least two separate places where we intercept the old with the new line, and the old line is always above the elevation of the new. So the old would dump into the new, making the new line the primary facility, the primary carrier. So you're always gonna see more flows coming through the new line. And once I explained that to Dennis, Dennis said right away, everything out here looks very good. The area that I've always been worried about having it be really wet is not underwater. This water it's wet. He didn't say that it was dry. He said, yes, it's wet out here, but that water will be gone well within the 48-hour time period that we needed to get it off. So he was very pleased with how the system was operating after a 3-inch rain. I'm also very pleased to hear that it's functioning the way we intended, which is that old line is secondary. It's playing a support role to the new line that was put in.
I live right near there, and so all the neighbors are watching, including myself.
Sure.
And that's exactly right. The new one was carrying water for a short time, and now they're both dry. But it did carry water first. There's no question about that. And people noticed it. I mean, I had that question asked me, and I answered the same way you did, that they were connected and the new line's deeper.
Yep.
That makes sense that it would run first. So this was a really good project. I'm so pleased that we were able to avoid the wetland mitigation piece. That made a huge difference.
Yes, and a huge thank you goes out to Dennis Schulte, who is no longer in our region. He is now in West Union, but Dennis Schulte with the NRCS was a very, very large reason why we were able to get these things prior converted and move this project forward. I'm also very pleased to hear back from some of these landowners stating that they have seen improvements, they are happy with the project, and that always makes me feel good knowing that they feel their dollars were spent wisely. Because of course that is what I strive to do, is make sure that their dollars are, that they see a benefit from the dollars they spend. So,
Ready for another 3-inch rain.
if there are no other questions, I ask that the joint board tentatively approve the commissioner's report on classification and adopt the attached schedules. And after that, we will need a motion to set a public hearing, a minimum of 40 days from today's date. But I will let the board discuss the approval of the commissioner's report first before we move forward with the public hearing.
I'm real familiar with the area. I think like I said earlier, it's a good project. I think people are gonna be pleased with it. No one's gonna be happy about paying the bill, but over the long run, it will be a good investment, and I'm good with moving forward.
That's your motion.
We need to figure out our date first, and then I will make the motion.
Okay.
We talked about July 22nd for a hearing date.
July 22nd is your 42 days. So that would be 42 days past today's date would be July 22nd. We'd be looking at publications of a notice into the newspaper the last week of June, which the 1st of July, of course, is, the 20 days before the date that would be set for the 22nd, if that's the date you choose.
We'll do that is that a Tuesday afternoon situation, or are we looking at doing it
Yeah.
during a board meeting?
No, when Judy and I had talked, we talked about Tuesday after lunch.
1:30?
Judy, is that what we decided?
Judy, did you hear that Renee had indicated that you had discussed it and would look for an afternoon meeting?
Yes, we felt because as big as it was and everything, we never know what our morning agendas are gonna be like, so probably 1:30 will free us up to give the people out there a lot of time to, if they have questions, so.
Okay. I then will make the motion to accept the preliminary reclassification report and set the public meeting on July 22nd at 1:30 p.m. in the comm center here in Sac City.
I'll second that, Hoyt.
Just a correction, we've been having a few things go back and forth with Webster County. I think maybe instead of saying public meeting, I would actually say public hearing.
Okay.
We just had those concerns with Webster County, we really kind of defined those terms. So-
No, you're right. I meant public hearing.
Sure, okay.
I'll second that.
The motion's been made and seconded for the reclassification. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same
All
sign.
here.
All ayes here. Motion carries.
Are you gonna go ahead and prepare the notice then and get over to us?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Okay. Just very briefly, I'd like to thank our commissioners, Graham Hogue and Bill Hayter. They were excellent to work with, and I hope I get the opportunity to work with them again very soon. But I do want to say thank you to our commissioners. And with that, I thank you for your time today, and I'll let you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. We don't need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, all ayes here, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it. Work order. Did you guys get a work order from
Yes.
Greg this morning?
Yes.
Have they had a chance to? Okay, all right. I'll let you review that then with them real quick, Jim. and
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure you did get that to
You got it, you got it.
Okay, great, great.
Thank you, Brian.
We got the transfers here from rural basic, $316,033 to secondary roads. And from general basic, $27,893.25 to secondary roads.
Make a motion to approve those transfers.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive the transfers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all ayes. Motion carries.
We've got two proposed tile repairs here that were submitted by Greg Vegas this morning.
Does great work, goes in the authorities of me for telling me I'm gonna start here. He's supposed to start next week. Okay. But he was was supposed to start June first, he was supposed to start May 15th, so he's been moving me back.
Already been doing a lot of that. Just this other one is probably 5,100.
I'll make a motion to approve this proposed tile repair in joint district number 67, section 26 of Eden Township, for a cost estimate of $300 by Marty Mauer.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded for, tile repair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
I'll make the motion to approve the proposed tile repair in section 1 of Delaware Township, district number 64 SAC and 105 BV. There's need to replace 80 foot of 26-inch tile and remove 7 large trees with the necessary adjustments to fulfill the job for a cost of $5,100 by Marty Mauer.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded for tile repair for $5,100. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
That would have added 1/3 to the cost of that if we had had to do that.
Letter saying that maybe one of the options we need to look at was canceling the contract. And I'd asked for cost for some of the options that we talked about. One being canceling the project, one being changing the late start date, and then also, you know, proceeding as the contract called for a late start at 6/23 with additional costs for overhaul. He did not get me any prices back, but he sent out a letter chance to skim through that.
What's he mean by there would be a chance that cold weather protection would be required? Is that an extra cost or not an extra cost?
Well, just a comment, I guess, about DOT specs. When you let stuff with DOT specs, you know, the specs have been put together by DOT and they're consistent so that when a contractor bids, whether it's a project in Calhoun County or whether it's a project in, you know, Dubuque or wherever, they're familiar with the specs and they know what to expect. The specs include a clause that if the weather gets cold and it gives you a temperature, if it's below 35 degrees predicted overnight, I think they got covered with plastic. If it's down to 32, then they've got covered with burlapping plastic. And there's a preset fee of $1 per square yard that the contracting authority has to pay for that coverage, to cover for cold weather.
So convert that to dollars for us.
It's $1 a square yard, I think. Total square yard of the projects.
That's a lot.
There's 152,000 square yards.
So you're leaving yourself open to,
Well, and that's
you could think maybe half of that could be
well, and that's,
susceptible to that.
he sent me this letter in an email yesterday afternoon, and I did talk to DOT this morning, and they're thinking that moving the late start date, moving the late start date would be, you know, a very feasible thing to do. As far as the cold weather protection, I want to get a feeling from him whether he's going to let us. We can't shut him down because of cold weather, but I mean, if we can work to have an understanding that if it gets cold, he's going to shut down, you know, for the year. He might be at a point where he needs to finish paving, you know, to the bridge, or have a short section that we might have to pave after cold weather.
I just don't wanna leave that wide open to, I mean, then you just, well, pay the overhaul and keep the date. I
Well-
mean,
Yeah,
just thinking out loud, I don't,
Yeah, I thought, you know, my feeling is, I should, you know, start paving now rather than do it during fall.
Cause
Everybody I've been talking to, they're going, we're so relieved that they're not gonna be doing this when we're trying to haul rain in
Yeah.
September, October, so you know, I'm not in favor of this.
The second thing is, if they would pave in September, October, they wouldn't get the shoulders done, would they?
Oh, yeah.
They would?
Shoulders don't take a whole lot of time to
Okay.
bring up.
we, after thinking about that, we were just talking briefly, after you had left, they kinda left, $750,000 on the table from their bid.
About 650 or something.
Yeah, and so if the numbers that we were talking about, they asked for 75,000 worth of extra trucking, correct?
Well, his letter stated some costs, but didn't really
I thought
didn't
we-
really say he was requesting them from us, but, and I don't think that he included all his costs in there. I mean, I think,
Just in the brief conversation, just in quick math, if we were to agree to go along with the 75,000, and that stuck with me, that's only 10% of the money he left on the table for kind of underbidding. The next one was a strong 700,000
Yep.
more than what he put there, and so now, okay, is that rather than stopping the contract altogether and risk an upcharge for next year, had a brief conversation about maybe you ought to think about the 10% overage and keep your date, because that could easily go up more than that the following year if you didn't maintain the contract.
Yeah, I
We
don't-
get a,
yeah,
we
you
get-
cancel
we get
the
a wet
contract.
fall, which, you know, we have for a while, but, you know, a lot of falls, it rains about every other day in October. And then you got things strung out in the, I like the idea of getting it started on now, and
I
some
would
people
too.
wanna use the road to haul their grain. That's what, if you're gonna pay more transportation to truck it, you know, farther than they anticipated, that's fine.
You know, in his letter, and I guess I didn't make a copy of that.
Did anyone else retain the 75,000? That came
Yeah.
out.
Well, that was just the extra trucks. That's what he's saying it would cost for them to get extra trucks there. He didn't really state that would be the total cost for the extra trucking, because of course, there's extra miles that they'd have to drive too. And I guess that's why I'd ask him for a realistic number on what total overhaul might be. Because in addition to the 6 trucks at $1,200 a day for $72,000, then he well, a couple of the other things that would probably pop up is they'd have additional cost in moving the paver from one location to the other, because they aren't able to set it down on one end and just pave all the way through. That with revising the trucking route, they'd have to pay from Ida County to Highway 39, and then to keep most of the trucks off the gravel road, they back the paver up to the bridge and then pave from the bridge west to 39. And then when they're done there, they'd have to pick the paver up and move it to the east side of the bridge and pave, going out that way. So he's talking about $8,000 to move the paver twice. He's also talking about, you know, depending on when the move occurs, we'll end up with 62-man paving and plant crew with nothing to do twice. This basically forces us to pay for inefficiencies of starting and stopping without production to cover the cost. We estimate this at approximately $4,070 per hour crew cost. We propose to keep track of this time at the end of the 2 additional spread moves and split this hourly crew cost with the county at 50/50. In addition to that, with the extra haul distance to go up and around, on a batch plant like they're using, where they're hauling concrete in basically dump trucks, you've got 30 minutes from the time that load is dumped in the truck till you dump it at the paver. With this extra mileage, he probably wouldn't be able to get those trucks unloaded in the 30-minute time frame. And so then you're forced with the option of either not following the specs and giving more time to dump them, or you add a retarder at $1 per cubic yard to slow the set down so they've got more time. It doubles the time that they've got to unload it.
What was DOT's position on, this isn't our fault? And so what was their position on the bridge situation? This has just absolutely thrown a wrench into it and isn't our fault. What'd they have to say about that?
Well, they said that, you know, and we had it in the specs that, you know, this bridge project was going on. It's in the plans that, you know, they've got this project is going on and they need to coordinate, you know. During construction of this project, the contractor will be required to coordinate their operation with those of other contractors working within the same area. Other work in progress during the same time period will include, but is not limited to, construction of the bridge rehab, access to be maintained to the bridge during construction, because of course they can't, the bridge contractor can't continue to work if he can't get to the bridge site, so they're supposed to, you know.
It was supposed to be done, Ron.
Well,
I mean, that's their protection, that's not ours. I was asking about our protection.
well, I mean, they said, you know, the contractor bid it knowing that that was a risk that they had, that bridge was in progress there. You know, I guess they thought we did a good job of, as far as putting the information in the plans, and the contractor was aware of that. But, you know, this is beyond their control as far as this bridge issue, so I think the only recourse, you know, we've got with the bridge contractor presently is the $1,200 a day, which if they're 20 days late, you're only talking $24,000, you know, in liquidated damages.
How many weeks do they think it's gonna take to pay this?
He thought that actual
It was
paving
good.
days would take them about 10 days. But they're gonna have some, you know, prep time ahead of that to do the removals and of course, he's talking 10 days in July, not, you know, September, October, because of course, you get shorter days and less production that time of year.
This is just a bad deal.
Oh.
It's like,
If they could set the plant up on the west side of the river, a lot of these wouldn't be a big problem. You know, they're trying to do it's cheaper for them to set it up in Hallis. That's not a given, you know, they could set the mixed plant up on the west side of the river.
Well, and, you know, we pointed out some possible sites that they could set up, and moving the plant site creates them other issues as far as, then they, where they were setting the sand was right there, they didn't have to haul it. If they moved, then all of a sudden you got longer haul distance for the materials, plus they gotta move the sand, plus they gotta get water. But, one of the biggest things is kind of a source of water too.
Yeah.
But, and I think Craig from Cedar Valley is trying to look into all those possibilities, and that's where he felt, the extra trucking distance was.
I don't know. I'd say, go ahead and pave it now, or late start date August 1st. The bridge should be done by August 1st.
I think to make a better decision, we need to know exactly.
Those numbers.
Yeah, because initially, 75,000 stuck with me. Well, if it's 75,000, he left $750,000 on the table. That's 10% to maintain the contract, which will go up that much next year if you were to cancel it.
Well,
And so I got to thinking, well, if it's 75 grand without the inconvenience of going out during harvest, we probably ought to spend that. But if it's a lot more than that, then you got to rethink it. But you need an accurate number to know for sure, in my view, to make a good decision.
I agree.
What would it cost, you probably can't do it. What's the cost to put a pipe in the river? I saw a contractor pushing a ditch shut the other day, rather than drive 2 miles around the section.
And that
It's the driest month of the year. Put a temporary in the damn thing and all across the river.
that was talked about too, if it was a different river than Boyer, it made a little easier discussion.
Yeah.
The Boyer, if we get any rain at all, gets pretty wild pretty quick.
Yeah.
And whatever you stuck in there is liable to be gone. But yeah, that was a topic that was briefly talked about.
What's
You know,
the
why
projected
can't,
finish date now?
You could
of
just
the
go,
bridge.
The last,
you could run, you could come out of Wally, come out of Hallett's, go north, a mile on the blacktop or 2 miles. And then boom, you're across, you're within, I'm trying to think how many extra miles.
you talk about going down a mile
I was
north.
just thinking, an alternative route to get the cement from Hallett's to the roadside.
Maybe you go up past Speed Harry's auto body, or,
Turn before that. Yeah.
There's a 6-ton bridge in there in that first mile north of,
yeah. It's a real little bridge.
it's not the Boyer Bridge, it's a
That's
overflow bridge further west.
Yeah.
And they talk about, hauling, the way he was talking about doing it the other day was he was gonna back the paver up to the bridge and then haul, or pave going west,
Yeah.
which means he was gonna haul all the material up the motorboat south and then come back to the bridge and then go west with it. We did talk about going down Carr Avenue, that's off 71, and the thought of using that gravel road as a haul route. DOT and everybody else says, boy, you're talking the number of trucks you're talking about hauling on that road, Hilly Road, the trucks are just gonna cut the road and really, it would be a nightmare trying to keep the road. I know, when they were going Highway 20, and they took that 2 miles east out of early on the gravel and then come down to get on, that was a lot worse than even this over here.
And that was bad enough over here.
Yeah.
But most of those complaints were dust, not necessarily too terrible deterioration of the road.
No, where they hauled the concrete trucks up there, they really,
Did they?
they had ruts in there, and we were putting oversized rock and laying them twice a day.
I see.
Running that many trucks on a gravel road, you know, it just, well, first of all, they'd have to come back someplace else anyhow, because you wouldn't want them trucks meeting on that hilly road.
Back to the dollar discussion. When's this bridge gonna be done? How much back money is that bridge contractor gonna owe that you would have available to apply towards something else?
His latest schedule, and of course, he set this schedule up with the idea of getting the bridge to the point that it was open, that the deck was poured, I should say, and it was cured, and then pouring a paving block at the end of the deck so that the traffic wouldn't damage the edge of the deck. And then we'd have to backfill it with granular to get the trucks up on the bridge and across. But he was talking about having that available the 20th of July. Now, the bridge is not done, because then he put 2 weeks in there for that they'd pull out where the paver was, or where they're running trucks across the bridge. And again, at this point, I haven't checked with Christensen for sure, but it would appear from his schedule that there'd be no rails on the side of the bridge. The deck would just be poured. Because then he's coming back later to do the approaches and the rails and actually strip the fault work out. So with the 2 weeks in there for Cedar Valley to pave across it, he's got a completion of August
Well,
17th.
but he's not gonna expect to pay during that.
Yeah, we'd have to shut off his
Right.
working days while.
I'm asking, what's the projected amount that he probably will owe that we could consider using for the other purpose? Just ballpark.
Well, again, he should have been done by the third week of June, or fourth week of June.
25 grand then, roughly.
Yeah, I mean, if you pick 20 days, it'd be 24,000, and it probably could be a little bit more than that. But, yeah, that's probably a rough 25. You know, I think, well, it'd actually probably be more than that, because he's got about 2 more weeks to finish the rest of the work after after he lets Cedar Valley run across it.
He's gonna want some consideration for that. You know, for him to pick up and leave and then come back, I can't think that he'll. I would say 25 to 30 on the outside would be the most that you could expect.
The other problem it's gonna create for him is if Cedar Valley comes in and does the removal of that paving from the bridge east, then he's gotta get his trucks and equipment in off of gravel. Not such a big issue till they start pouring the deck, and then all of a sudden they gotta get concrete. I think he'd wanna get concrete to both ends of the bridge, since it's a long bridge. And there might be some cost to, well, right now, the removal would come within about 60 foot of the bridge. The pavement removal, well, the contractor's got stuff spread out farther than that. We'd probably have to, it'd be an issue we'd have to work out, whether we left more concrete in there and had the bridge contractor remove it and pour it back in. I mean, it's just not a good deal all the way around. I mean, hindsight being what it is, I wish we would have let the bridge this year and put the late start on the paving contract next year.
Regardless of how we sort this out, we can't, my view is that we can't not keep this contract, because I think it'll go up dramatically. We saw how much underbid this was this time. We can't let the contract go. So either you,
And if you did, there would be costs there, because if, according to DOT specs, if we cancel the project, we've got to pay for any materials that he's already purchased or any expenses he's already got.
and just, I was only considering the
And
inflation.
You're just talking about inflation.
Yeah, and along with the fact that with his hindsight now, he saw what the next closest bidder was gonna be. And so we gotta keep that contract in some fashion.
Would you want to move, what, any thought on just, and I don't know what he would say, but if we just delayed the whole contract till next spring? Assuming the prices would stay.
I'd have no problem with that,
Yeah, if he honors the price.
yeah.
If he doesn't, they won't hold his price.
Then we don't have a choice. But then we gotta go forward with it if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Well, you want to pin him down on the additional cost before you offer that option.
Right. First start by trying to get a solid dollar on going forward with it now. Then say, well, that we've had some discussion about postponing for a year, but would like to keep the current bid with a modest inflation factor. But if you don't do that, won't the state say that bid's invalid and that you can't? I'm concerned about that.
I mean, right now, you know, we could right now write a change order that said for mutual benefit of the contract, we're gonna change the late start date till June of 23rd of 2015.
They would let you do that?
They would let us do that. You know, the contractor would have to agree to do that
Yeah.
too.
Are you gonna?
The only thing is if we did that, unless we added some other restrictions in there. I mean, right now with the contract he's got, he can start anytime. I mean, the way DOT writes the specs is they, unless you're really tightening up your working days or your late start or completion date, they try to give the contractor as much time to do the work as they can, and you can't stop them. Just like that year we let those two projects north of Nemaha, we let it in February, thinking that the contractor is going to start on this till after it thaws out in the spring.
Oh, yeah.
Graves was in there 2 weeks later trying to do removal, and they spent, you know,
The
yeah,
road's closed.
the road was closed. They had time for. I mean, they had people working and something for them to do in the winter, but their productivity was some days was nil. And so you can't stop them from starting. And so if we did push the date till next year, if they wanted to come in this fall and do it, the contract would allow them to do that unless
We can't do that.
unless we put something in there that said they can't start till next spring. And I think if you would do that,
You gonna meet with this individual, or are you gonna do it over the phone?
we'd originally planned to meet Monday, and then said he couldn't make it. I'd like to get him back here, yeah, and have it, you know.
Well, maybe it'd be good if we were sitting there with you. Follow me, I got, well, I guess, you know, like Rick said, I'd like to, go forward with the project, next week or the week after that, depending on the cost. And second, instead of a 9/15 late start, at 8/15. By August 15th, Chris should have the bridge and the rails done. Follow it.
Well, and I need to read through that.
And probably, he might not like that 8/15 over the 9/15 because of another project. This isn't the only job he's trying to do.
I need to read through the spec, because we have never used this what he's asking for there is an approximate start date, which is different than a late start date. When the contract specifies a late start date, you start counting days either whenever they move in, or at that date you start counting days. With a approximate start date, and I just briefly talked to DOT this morning, I haven't pulled the spec book out to read it, but with an approximate late start date, the county would let them know when it was open for them to start. And then apparently they've got to start within 2 weeks of that, is what they said this morning. So even if you put a 9/15 late start in there, or excuse me, approximate start date, if it was available for them to get started before that, you'd give them notice that they could start, and then they've got a time period. He told me 2 weeks this morning. I guess I'd have to check that for sure.
Well, that wouldn't be so
But-
bad if the bridge was done in July.
But then you'd start, well, July 20th is what he said, if just to get us, for the contractor to pass. To get the project completed, I'm guessing you're gonna be talking I'd say 1st of August.
At best.
Yeah.
It's probably,
At best.
and of course,
Yeah, I watch those things. How long, one of the farmers, how long after they pour the deck, can you put a truck on top of it? I was trying to remember out on Highway 20, I was surprised, can't remember which bridge it was.
It
but
was fast.
I was surprised how soon they were driving over that new deck. It's a, similar thing.
well, here he's got poor deck on, 7. Poor deck on 7-2. And then start working on the back walls on 7-10. It's like 5 days, I think. You gotta break them, you pour beams and then break them to see if they got the flexural strength to open the bridge. They can't drop their false work that's underneath support until you broken a beam that shows it's got enough strength to open. And of course,
I wonder where they're getting their concrete,
who's that?
Christians.
Breed, I think.
How many miles is it from Breeden? They were talking about that 30-minute.
Well, it's either.
They'll be in a truck though.
They'll be in a mixer truck,
Rotating truck.
and you got more time.
'Cause when they were pouring new 20 up there, they were using the dump truck for cement.
Yeah.
And they'd spin them around pretty fast from the plant.
I think.
Breeden hauled the cement to those 2 bridges at Wall Lake. I was down there, they rejected one load.
I'm thinking it's 60 minutes on it. Well, depending what they rejected on, whether they rejected on
Too much air.
too much air.
Really?
I don't know. I was talking to Dale, he was down there.
Huh.
They got it done.
What do they do with that load then? Take it back and sell it to farmer?
Drove around, they drove it around the section and came home. I don't know.
Hope they're running something else that
Well,
day.
the DOT project, I think if anybody let them know that they would be receptive to taking some concrete that was rejected, they would dump it in your yard for you.
Is that right?
But you gotta be ready like that to do something with it, otherwise you're gonna have a big chunk of hard concrete, because of course, the time is already starting to set up.
So you better build some forums by your.
I can,
Build a bomb shelter for all the
Yeah.
disgruntled constituents.
Well, Mike Schrader's having the Schrader Christmas here in the next 3 weeks too. So they got 200 people coming to their house. And is hoping that the cement wasn't going past their place that week.
What week said?
I don't know, it was sometime in June, late June. I said, well, I'll give you a gator, you can drive him from the corner up to your house. Oh.
So I guess my understanding where we're at with this is, you want me to go back to Craig, try to get some, you know, I don't know how firm prices he can get. He's gotta get closer, or at least some numbers that, and I'd ask for a detail, you know, this much for haul, this much for, you know, cause again, I think if we're hauling that far, we're probably gonna have to add the retarder in at least for part of the loads. But, even there, you're only talking $15,000 for all the loads. And you wouldn't need it for all the loads, because of course, the ones east of the bridge, which is the 8-inch thick pavement, that's not gonna be required there. But I'd ask him to try to break down, you know, what the different costs might be.
And leverage a little bit that it's in everybody's best interest to get, they can keep their schedule, and so they ought to be flexible and negotiable in these prices, because they can keep their schedule, and we're willing to pay a little more.
And you gotta realize their schedule is, you know, a couple storms, and their schedule goes out the window too. But, you know, in his original letter, if you want a copy of that, I can get a copy of that for you. But, you know, that's what he stated too. They bid this with the understanding they'd be able to get in there during this period, because they had other work scheduled for later.
So did we. And then that's, I mean, everybody did this on this end in good faith.
Yeah.
And then we got this other problem, and so it's.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind sitting in on the meeting.
I can see if he can get us prices as quick as he can, tell him that you wanna evaluate all the options yet, and not that the moving the date was completely out, but, you know.
Well,
depending on the cost.
it isn't very favorable because of the harvest, and these guys have already been
Yeah.
put into a bind for way longer than they should have, and then now we got this coming on. And, you know, really just first glance at it, if they would maintain the current contract with the changes that we would ask for, we might be better off waiting for next summer, just because then you have a better schedule.
Fresh schedule to start from. But again, if we were to do that, unless we put some restrictions in
Right.
this fall, they could, you know, standard
Which we don't want at
contract
all.
procedure would allow them to start anytime between now and next June. But
They run into this all the time, as far as the fall and harvest.
well, and I think, you know, from his letter, I think they've got other projects that they're having issues with too, that, you know, the rain has slowed up the grading, and they can't get the grading done, and so they're trying to shift things around, I think, too. And of course, some of the interstate projects would probably have a higher penalty on them than what ours does. And of course, once they move into a site, they don't wanna move back out. I mean,
Certainly moving costs.
but I know last year with Highway 20, you know, they had a plant set up here, and then they went to do that work in Cedar Falls, you know, left the plant set here, you know, moved the crew over there, but then brought the crew back later. But I will get a hold of him, you know, as soon as I get back to the office, and tell him that, you know, we need that list of costs, and then, you know, try to set up time to meet with him.
If you could call or email us rather than send a letter to,
To,
if you want to communicate with us,
oh, with you guys?
yeah, just call us.
Okay. Yeah, last week when we canceled that meeting, I think, would we send a letter to you that we did? We didn't, I'm not sure we had everybody's
Yeah.
email, or would have emailed us. The last item I got there, the federal manual for traffic control devices. A new manual was put out, it's been a couple of years ago, and one of the requirements is that you have a written policy that says how you're gonna repair and maintain the retro reflectivity of the signs. There was several different procedures you could use. One of them is you take the life of the sign, and you just say, well, whenever a sign gets to be this age, we're gonna replace it. One of the other, that's called the management method. One of the other methods was you buy a reflectometer that goes out, and you take like 3 readings or 4 readings on each sign on each color, and then you determine whether it's reflective enough based on the reading you get, and you reject it or replace it. This policy here is actually combines using the expected life of the sign, along with checking some standard typical signs, and then basing your replacement on the ones you check. In other words, say the sign life on a stop sign on a high intensity is 10 years. With the inventory, we did an inventory, so we got all the signs inventory. You sort the inventory and say, well, show us all the signs that are over 10 years old. And then you go out and maybe shoot 2 or 3 of them that are 10 years old that are, say, facing north. Same thing, facing east, south, west. And you find that the ones facing north are okay. They've got reflectivity left in them, so you don't replace them. But the ones facing south are right at minimum or below. So you replace all the south facing ones that were installed with that type of base, and they're that old. And so that's what this is trying to do here. The manual requires all counties and cities, everybody's supposed to have a policy on how they're going to replace signs. The other part of this is, it says that on stop signs, we'll replace, basically, as soon as we know they're down, we'll send somebody to replace them, whether it's temporary them up with a steel post that are 2 before and screwing them back to the post that's there. All other signs will be replaced during our normal working hours. So if we get a call on a curb sign down on a Friday or a Saturday night, we wouldn't replace it till Monday. And if this somewhat follows as far as the replacement, what's calling out to replace signs is what we're doing now. The only thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to, and region 12 does have a reflectometer that we can use. We'll have to get that and start shooting some signs to make sure that what's out there is got the reflectivity it needs. One of the other methods is you can take a vehicle, you guys go through a process of getting the headlights, make sure, I think it's gotta be a pickup size vehicle, you gotta make sure that the headlights are adjusted properly, and then get somebody that's 60 years old or older and go out.
Oh, jeez.
and see whether they think the signs are reflecting.
Is that right?
The other way to do that,
That's
you
pretty
can-
unscientific.
You can use other individuals, but then you gotta have signs in the yard that, this one passes, this one don't, and you keep them covered so they don't lose any of their reflectivity. You shoot them and know what they are, and then before they go out that night, you're supposed to look at them and say, yeah, this is okay, this one's not, and then you go out. You're supposed to calibrate your eyes, in other words, and then you go out and drive.
Very unscientific.
Well, but that driving at night is when you see those signs that don't reflect, because signs, they can show you signs that look really good during the daylight, and at night they don't reflect. And then they get other ones that look really ugly in the daytime, but at night they still show up. So daytime you can look at positioning and mounting height and that stuff, but reflectivity, you gotta, either shoot them or go out and follow, they're trying to make sure that all signs out there, and I should say, shouldn't say all signs, the warning and regulatory signs are reflecting, your route markers, don't fall into this, your cattle crossing signs don't fall into this, your no parking signs don't fall under this, and there's a bunch of others, basically your curves and stop ahead.
I'll make the motion to include this in our policies and procedures for traffic signage and repair and replacement.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to include signage for the secondary roads. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
I'm gonna sign one of them for me, and then you guys want to sign one, I only need two, I think. I only want one back, I guess, you guys. You guys want to sign one for Jim to have it. As far as meeting, what, mid-morning, mid-afternoon?
I'm pretty flexible, whatever works for you.
Yeah, normally they're coming from Eastern Iowa, so 10 o'clock would probably be the earliest that they can meet, but I don't think I've got any other meetings this week that work around here, so.
Friday, I get to go to Adventure Land, so.
You gonna ride that new ride?
Oh, man.
All the kids and grandkids go, so.
I saw that on the news.
That doesn't look fun to me.
Did you see that?
Goes 250 feet in
Yeah,
the air.
250 or 60 feet in the air.
It looks kind of on the order of one of the wind towers with a bunch of seats that go round and round, and I don't know if they raise and lower you.
It looked like the whole thing went up. But
Yeah, but I mean, is it quicker?
Oh,
I went
It
up
looks
it's like one of the big
Chicago.
swings, except
I went up that.
250 feet in the air.
And then it was like a parachute, and you went up, I think it was like 250, and it tripped and it just fell.
Oh, man.
I probably
It just
won't.
kept like, you start up, you can see the lake, and you can see way up north. It's pretty scary. Of course, I was,
This looks.
I mean, those springs were hanging on,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell, I'd have to look at the thing again, whether it was hanging on a chain or whether it was hanging on.
when we hit the bottom, you went back up another 150, 200. Kind of like those bungee things.
Yeah.
Would they say it costs $4 million? I
They
think.
did catch, they just have to catch the thing going up and down, the thing goes. Doesn't look good to me.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think I've got everybody.